order here. We're going to have a presentation by Envision Livingston and the committee to propose some changes to the Livingston Municipal Code on abandoned vehicles. Then there will be discussion by the board, mayor, and aldermen. And then if after that discussion, if anybody wants to speak, they can. You will need to come to the podium and speak at that time. So I'll go ahead and turn the work session over to the chairman or president of Envision Livingston. Which one is that?
I'm nothing. I'm just a member.
Okay.
We don't have chairman.
Ms. Barbie Roberts.
I'm Barbie Roberts from Envision Livingston, and first of all, I want to thank y'all for the work session tonight, and we all appreciate the new board asking to revisit the property maintenance code. When we came before y'all a year ago, the last Board of Aldermen and the mayor, Envision Livingston proposed changes to every section of the code. But now we think that that was such a large project that it got confusing and overwhelming. So tonight, we're only doing the section on abandoned, wrecked, dismantled, or inoperative vehicles. And Ray Evans is going to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Mr. Evans.
So I think that you all have copies of an ordinance that John Meadows and the MTAS staff and myself have been working on that you'll consider later on. But what I think is being passed out now is this sort of I would call it the Reader's Digest condensed version that actually does a quick comparison of the existing code and the proposed code. First thing that you'll note is that the existing code hasn't been updated in 19 years. It's out of compliance with the current requirements of Tennessee Code Annotated. And as you read the current code, it references almost exclusively, not completely, but almost exclusively public property, vehicles that are abandoned on public property. It does make mention in one location to private property, but then it just sort of ignores that after a while. Very ambiguous regarding the process that you would notify someone and how you would impound the vehicles, etc. The proposed code, first and foremost, brings the municipal code up to the current standards of the Tennessee Code Annotated. It applies equally to vehicles that are on public property and on private property. And it gives a very detailed process on hearings. So if the property owner wants to appeal a citation, it describes what that process is. It gives specific time periods for that process. For instance, I think it has a 48-hour notice and then 10 days after that. But it greatly explains, clarifies the paragraphs regarding notice of removal, impoundment, disposal. And one of the things that the current ordinance does says that if the city impounds a vehicle, they can charge for the cost of the impoundment, whatever that is. Also, if the owner does not claim his vehicle, the city has the right to, this is in the current code, the city has the right to auction the vehicle. And if they do that by the current code, the city keeps 100% of the revenues collected by that auction. This new code says almost the same thing, but the city only gets to keep the portion of their own cost, the cost of impoundment, et cetera, with the remainder of the money going to the actual vehicle owner itself. Again, that's a current Tennessee Code annotated requirement. Another thing that we found in looking at the current code is there is a reference to the city manager in your current code. To my knowledge, Livingston never had a city manager, so that cleans that up. And the other thing it does is, in probably 99% of the communities in the state, abandoned vehicles is in the property maintenance section of the code. Livingston's right now is in a section called motor vehicles, traffic and parking, which mostly talks about traffic regulation kinds of things. And so this puts it in the appropriate area within the municipal code as well. I have some photographs I want to pass around with some examples. None of the properties or property owners are specifically identified, but I suspect that y'all would recognize those. In the first two photographs, you see a vehicle in the front and then two vehicles in the rear. If you go to Google Earth and scale back to the aerial photograph from 1997, those three vehicles are sitting in the same spot in 1997 as they're sitting in today. So they've been there for at least 11 years in the same spot. But you'll see some other examples around town of vehicles that we think would give the city the teeth in the enforcement mechanism that the city would require to rid those properties of those kinds of violations. The ordinance that you will consider later on tonight has been reviewed by the attorneys at Tennessee at the MTAS, and frankly, they made from the first version that they were sent, they made considerable changes in a couple of sections that again made sure that the language was correct and in keeping with the current Tennessee Code annotated and with any court findings that would be affected by the language. That's the presentation. Be happy to try to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Does the council have any questions for Mr. Evans?
Ray, can you back up and explain again the process for enforcing?
Sure.
The new, is the enforcement component of the new ordinance that you recommend, how is it different from the existing?
The existing one essentially doesn't have language in there that appropriately details what the process is.
So just summarize this enforcement.
Yeah, so by whatever means a property owner is cited.
How does that work?
Notified by mail.
From the mayor?
Let's just say at this point, let's just say from the city.
Okay.
Then he has 48 hours to respond to that. If he doesn't respond, he has another 10 days. He can ask for a hearing in that time period. He can ask for a hearing to say.
Okay, may I interrupt you just a second? Is there a form letter?
That's way beyond what the code would. I mean, I would suggest that there would be, but there's nothing in the ordinance that speaks to a form letter. It's just a notification.
And the hearing, how does that work?
Yeah, so
where does that, how does that?
So you would have a hearing officer, and that could be the mayor or the mayor's designee that would listen to the case and the cause. For instance, if the person said, I need 30 more days to get it out, but I'll get it out, then certainly that would be something that you wouldn't want to be hard nosed to say, no, you've only got 10 days, et cetera, et cetera. So you look at those circumstances. You may have property owner to say, you know what, haul them off. I don't want to fool with it and haul them off. So you have the ability in here to do that. You also have the ability to, in this code, to go on the private property and actually take the vehicle and impound the vehicle at an appropriate secure spot. And then after, and I can't remember the time period, but after a certain time period, then you have the right to auction that vehicle. Now, so again, too, this is about abandoned vehicles, vehicles that aren't currently registered. So if you have a vehicle that's currently registered, that's sitting in your driveway that needs some work, this wouldn't apply to that, okay? But it talks about abandoned vehicles, disabled vehicles, vehicles that are obviously wrecked and have been partially parted out, et cetera, et cetera.
Are there details in here then about, if a property owner has what you might consider an abandoned vehicle on his or her property, is there a process that we go through to, I guess, debate the argument of whether or not it's,
Yes.
in their view, abandoned?
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
they may
so-
think that's not abandoned just because it's
Right, so
been sitting there for 10
there's
years.
definitions in the ordinance that describe what an abandoned vehicle is. And that's what the hearing process would be when they can make their case as to why that vehicle is not in fact abandoned or to get some relief on the time period for removal.
Okay.
Ray, I think we have time to do this, if you feel comfortable. There's not but just a few pages to it. Why don't we just go over it? I think that would answer a whole lot of questions.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't have it in front of me, so I'm happy
Right.
to do this.
I'm asking all these
No,
questions.
it's okay to
I've read
have
it.
questions, I'm just saying, why don't we just,
I support
I've got a
it.
copy here.
I've got a copy here now too.
You got more copies?
Yes, sir. If you'd like to have one. Yes.
That van's been moved, hasn't it, or is this a current picture?
No, it's current.
That's behind the American Legion?
Okay. Ray, this is one we got, so we're all on the same page, why don't you take mine?
Let me do that, because I know.
Because there's been several copies, and sometimes we get,
It's my understanding that this gentleman is going out of business or retiring. This is a TV repair guy on Livingston Street, for this picture, behind the American Legion. This is on Cedar Street, where Mary Stevens is placed, used to be that barn that the city, I think, did the city remove that building? Is that right?
yes.
Now it's a car lot. And that's over by Kirkendall Street.
Ray.
Because Scott, if you look in the proposed ordinance under section 202, that's where it gives a fairly significant description of what, which vehicles would apply to this ordinance. And you notice that, well, in excess of 72 hours, most of these have been in excess of 72 months, much less 72 hours. But then the next section you talk about, as we said earlier, talks about the notice of removal, the process that the property owner has to either correct the violation or to appeal that finding. Then 105 describes the hearing process. And then removal of the vehicle after the second notice has been sent out. Describes how the notice of removal would be done. 207 talks, as I said earlier, about the deposition of the vehicle and the sale of the vehicle and what the sale of the vehicle, how that would be distributed. You see that there's a stated fee for storage of the vehicle for whatever time period. And at any time in this process too, the owner of the vehicle can still claim his vehicle and any time before it's actually auctioned off. But I guess the most important part of all this is that your current code is only one page long. And it just, it is just grossly unclear as to what a citizen should do if their vehicle's impounded and gets into this process. And this details it considerably more than the current code does.
Is that the first page?
Exactly.
I was trying to read, sorry.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the, I
Okay.
guess it's page 2, right? And 72 hours. I'm in just a little, I have an issue with that.
So our original version said 24 hours, and MTS suggested that 72 hours was the common language recommended for that. We also had, I think, 5 days
On the notice to remove.
on the notice to remove. It's now 10 days. So
Yeah, so let's talk about that for just a moment. 72 hours is not a whole lot of time when it comes to removing a vehicle in the event that, and we are talking about private property, correct?
and both right. So the 72 hours is how long it is the minimum amount of time that the vehicle has been abandoned.
Okay.
So if
But I'll agree with that on public right. I don't necessarily know that I agree with that on private. So, do you all have issues with two numbers? Or does it-
Is,
What
let me
would be
clarify.
the difference in your mind of public?
Well,
I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of times what works with MTS don't work in the real world. When, you send RSM to the police chief or the mayor or somebody out to take their vehicle, no, it's gonna be tough, I'll be honest with you. No doubt, because now I'm gonna tell you,
Especially because we've never done it before.
well, I'm gonna be honest with you. In my eyes and your eyes, what's a junk, we see as junk. They may say it's no family treasure, or something like that, and you're fixing to get this man right over here in bad trouble. Unless one of you wanna go with you.
well, you asked me a question about the difference in public. I can see it causing a problem in public. And I also understand the neighborhoods, and I mean, I represent everybody, the public and the private property,
I don't
and
know.
the individual residents.
Sure.
So,
But most of the vehicles that are on private property and would fit this category have been there for considerable time already. Way more than 72 hours. So, it's almost a moot point, I guess.
well, but I'm just, let's just say this is enforced
Yeah.
30 days from today, okay? And someone, their motor blows,
Sure.
whatever, maintenance problems happen to, the vehicle, okay? So they're staying home, they went and bought a new vehicle now, or another vehicle. They work extremely large hours, okay? And within 72 hours, they're gonna be in violation of the code. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
They've got.
I'm talking to Ray, so give me just a minute, okay? So, I mean, if I'm wrong, I hope I am. So, am I wrong on that scenario, Ray? That's what I was trying to do.
As I read it, I think you're correct. Now, Barbara, if you read it a different way, but as I
So
read it,
Barbara, tell me.
I think.
Well, you're talking about a car that's presently got
Yes,
tagged.
it's tagged.
That doesn't fit.
So that doesn't even apply.
No.
If it's a currently registered
Okay.
car.
Where does it say that?
Fair enough.
When it defines it up at the top where it gives junk motor vehicle, that's,
Okay.
it's, it's got a present
Well,
license plate.
let's just read it. Number 4, read it out loud.
What code is that? 13204?
It's the definitions, 201.
Definition.
Oh, number 4, sorry. Okay.
Their junk motor vehicle is any motor vehicle as defined by that code, which does not have lawfully affixed thereto an unexpired license plate or the condition of which is wrecked, dismantled, parked, dismantled, inoperative, abandoned, or discarded, or constitutes a public nuisance and/or affecting the health and safety of the community as a whole.
Let me
Makes a
share-
huge difference, because I'm for it.
That makes a big
Absolutely.
difference.
And that does, but it brings up another question, Curtis and Rick and Bart. You take a hard worker out here that's drove an older vehicle, got it paid for, tied it in the glove box, it blows the motor, blows something up. They have to go get them another vehicle temporarily, take tags off that vehicle. That vehicle may have to sit there 3 or 6 months before they get a transmission or get a motor in. You gonna tow it on and make them tow it because it's not got tags on it? According to that law, you could. That is a taxpayer rate.
Except you have a hearing element in here.
Who's the hearing?
That you.
Who is the hearing process people? Who you
So,
plan on doing that?
Yeah, so,
So you go and state your case and say, here's my situation, my engine blew, I intend to fix it, give me 6 months.
And they're probably gonna get away with it.
But
Yeah.
clarify, who's the hearing gonna be
well, my designee would be probably Kelly Williams, the city judge.
City judge.
Well, this is why I asked in the beginning, it's really hard to,
So,
It's a little bit technical.
but I think though, if you give the scenario that you give, and are you saying remove the tags from the vehicle that has had the?
I'm saying if they had to remove them and put them on another vehicle, if they had to be expired.
And
But
re-register.
they wanted that vehicle 6 months down the road, they want to put a transmission or something in that vehicle and fix it. Are we gonna tell that landowner they can't do it?
I didn't remember that in Tennessee, you could take vehicles from one, license from one vehicle and put it on another vehicle.
Yes, you can if you register it.
You transfer.
Yes, you can transfer it. Am I right? Alderman?
If you go to the clerk's
If
office.
you go to the clerk's office.
Transfer, okay, yeah. But
Now-
again, you have a hearing process, and I can't imagine that y'all are gonna be heartless in this by any means.
Right.
I don't think any community is, because you're not trying to, impose, punishment on your citizens, you're just trying to clean up the community. If they've got a legitimate reason and need some time, then there's a means in here that time can be granted.
And I'm not against clearing up, community cleaning up, beautification, totally. But previously, and you were the one that requested it, for it to be, for Envision Livings to be disbanded. Am I not correct? We can go back and look at the minutes. Last year,
So
you asked for it to be disbanded, and this
be
board
disbanded?
voted it.
To be, for the committee to do this, let no, sir.
Phyllis, is that not in the minutes?
So dismiss it indefinitely.
Dismiss it indefinitely. It was in the newspaper, I believe, and the minutes.
That
You
had
should
to do with the
What,
ordinance.
Curtis?
I said indefinitely doesn't mean forever. That's not what that means.
Alderman Dishman, that
Indefinitely
had to
doesn't mean
do with
forever.
the ordinance that you were considering, not the committee.
The ordinance, yes, okay, I'll agree that, that may
That,
have been a
that,
clarification.
that you postponed action on that ordinance indefinitely. Now, one of the titles is back before you tonight,
Correct.
okay? But it had nothing to do with the disbanding of the committee. No, sir.
Personally, I'd like to see a little bit more time, other than 72 hours. Because,
Sure.
I mean, things happen,
Again, I mean, you can give someone, if you choose to, you can give them 6 months.
Well, that's
But
what I'm,
at least you've addressed the situation.
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
you've identified, someone has identified a problem, you've addressed it, they've come to talk to you, and you've given them some leeway.
I mean, there's, and the reason I say that, and I know this firsthand, is there's some folks that just work out of state, and only come home once every 6 weeks or 8
No
weeks.
question, no question.
And-
You can still register.
And,
Yeah, huh?
But that vehicle would still be registered.
No, but not necessarily. If they took that tag off, Ken, and transferred that to another vehicle, and then they flew out of the state, but when they got back, they planned on selling the vehicle or getting it back registered or whatever the case may be, I just feel like 72 hours, it could be a little quick. That's it.
All right.
I mean, that's,
again, the 72 hours is when, is the time period when you can first legitimately identify an issue.
72 hours is not, in my understanding, how much time we're giving them to remove it or remedy the problem.
Correct,
That's not the 72-hour issue.
that's correct.
The 72 hours only applies, the way I'm hearing you. That's how long we have to let that car sit there, or vehicle, abandoned vehicle, before we, the administrative arm of this, can even begin to notify.
That's right.
And,
I mean, you're exactly right.
Okay.
and
But I still think that's too quick.
Well, I mean,
That's just
maybe,
me.
well, so 72 hours, maybe we need 5 days or 10 days. What do you think's reasonable?
Well,
Well, all these examples is several years.
I mean,
that's exactly right.
Well,
I think
and there's
that's
some
the way
more
to do it.
examples in
30
this
days.
town.
I think,
Where we have businesses, and matter of fact, I got behind out-of-state vehicles the other day up by Tubular, and they were probably business people coming to visit Tubular. And they were circling around, Oak Terrace and Tubular, in the Tennessee Drive area. And they were having to see another bunch of vehicles up there on that street. And that a business right here in Livingston.
again, I would suggest to you that the 72 hours is not nearly as important as the fact that you have a process that when someone has
absolutely.
has-
And I think that's the point.
extenuating circumstances,
Right.
then you can address that. And the other thing I would tell you is, and I don't suspect that necessarily that anybody's gonna be driving around
Right.
town looking for, hey, that car wasn't there last week, and it's there.
That's exactly right. And,
it's only been there 71.
So,
Average
So-
scale on it.
so once the complaint comes in the city hall,
Time clock.
Or
It is when
you,
the-
or
the
the city
clock
initiates
starts.
the complaint itself, which you
right,
can certainly.
either or.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have any.
That's right.
My view, one of the, I guess, bigger questions that I believe this body has to answer is, this is the way I understand it, this is the first of multiple possible revisions that are coming in terms of our property maintenance codes, right?
Yeah, this is one section.
Okay, so I guess the bigger question is, are we as a community and town, an authoritative body, are we ready to begin a process of actually holding the citizens of this town accountable for whatever these codes say in them? Are we ready as a body to begin that process? It's not gonna be, it'll probably be ugly in the beginning, but you've probably heard just like I have, let's clean up this town. It has to begin with a written policy and a process. Are we going to hold people accountable?
So, Ray, my question is.
Well, that's my question to
I'm
this
sorry.
group.
I'm sorry.
Are we?
I think the answer is yes. I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
All right.
So I'll get to you. I feel, and I'm just one, and I don't even have a vote, but 60 days would give someone ample time to remove their vehicle, or if they're out of town, to come back in town and is. In my opinion,
Again, Mayor,
fair.
the 72 hours
Right.
is simply how long the vehicle's been sitting there, not how much time they've got to remedy it.
That's correct. And I know the clock keeps going on, because if we go through the process and the hearing officer
Sure.
gives more time, maybe the question should be, how much time do we want the vehicle to actually sit there before we pull it, tow it, sell it? In that case, maybe that could be the question that would give the hearing officer the time allotted that has to do anything. I just hate for someone that has a little bad luck with their vehicle, and then in 72 hours, boom, boom, boom. Now, I understand there's more time, but 60 days, that's 2 months.
So while I appreciate that, what you just said very much, we're sort of picking at, well, this could occur, or this could occur. But what we have now is issues all over town right now. So I would hate to dilute this to the point that you don't have the enforcement power that you need for the problems that we see every day now.
And Ray, I don't think, I agree with what you said earlier. I don't think giving them 60 days, it would dilute it a little bit, but not as much that nothing that would get done. So again, I asked the council and Vision Livingston, what's the day amount that the end of the day comes for an abandoned vehicle? What's that number? Is that 45 days? Is that 90 days? Is that 120 days? Is that 6 months? Because, everyone needs due process, and I think that everybody understands that. I'm just trying to be a little liberal with this before we go and get somebody's vehicle.
And I think that's why John sent this to MTS, to make sure that we weren't being overly restrictive, and the markup that came back from the MTS actually added some time over what was, actually it added time over what they had originally reviewed a year ago.
Right. And there's no doubt that MTS has approved this, and what is in there can happen. There's no doubt about that. I'm not questioning that, and, I said this before, I thank you all again for the work that you have put into this. I just, you gotta have something that you can truly enforce. That's what you gotta have.
So what I would, obviously, this body can do what it pleases, but what I would suggest is that in your regular meeting tonight, where you would consider this on first reading, if you consider it on first reading as it's written without change, and then between now and then, propose things like that, so John can bounce those off of MTS to make sure that we're not, by the changes that we would make, we're not in compliance with the Tennessee Code Annotated. And I certainly don't know whether the 60 days would do that, but I think since they've reviewed it as much as they have, we would want any changes reviewed by them again. So in your January meeting, you would consider it on second reading and modify it how you please. You would have a public hearing also on the second reading in January.
Yeah. Or the council could, during this work session, could change it now. It's whatever.
You could, but I just caution you that I'm not smart enough to know that if you change this and this and this, that somehow you haven't stepped out of the bounds of the Tennessee Code or the current practice.
That makes sense.
I believe Darius said something, Curtis.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I do want to say one thing. I want to thank Ray for pointing out that the current code deals with public abandoned vehicles, and it's easy to take care of those, because they're on public property. And it's easy to take care of those. So I appreciate you pointing that out today. I wanted to say this, that when they came before us, and I didn't know it had been a year ago, but when they came before the board a year ago and had the work sessions, I done some windshield survey. So I went to every spot, every house, every street in Livingston. Took me a notepad, wrote down the violations, but now, when we were dealing with everything, I had 200, a little over 200 violations. But now that you're specifically pinpointing abandoned cars, I had 120 different locations, not 120 cars, but 120 different properties.
Wow.
That had one or more abandoned vehicles. So I want you to notice, and I want you to understand what kind of scope you're looking at. Now, I don't know what the answer is. The answer would be better if we can get that property owner to agree to do something, rather than trying to force that person to do something.
Sure.
And I don't know how you would do that. We can ask everybody, but as David pointed out, maybe someone else pointed out, the vehicle that they got there was their brothers, their sisters, their mamas, their daddies, their sons, may have had an accident, may have even got killed in that vehicle. And it means something to them. But I just want you to know there's at least 120 different properties that you would be doing.
Thank you, Darius. And I certainly concur with what Darius says about getting permission, but folks, it just is not working. And Darius and I have tried to enforce by getting consent from property owners. And a high percentage of the time, it just don't work. So I believe there certainly needs to be a property maintenance code. And whatever time you put on with it is what we will enforce here at City Hall. And Darius is right, absolutely. If everybody would give us consent to do this and that, we wouldn't be here tonight, at least on this subject. But there's a time that we need some teeth, and we need some codes, and we need some guidance and some instruction on what to go by. And that's where this property maintenance code comes in effect. Now, I'm for the property maintenance code. And I can work with 72 hours or 200 hours, you know, we can work with it, but that's where we're at.
I'd like to ask Mr. Darius a question, if I could. Darius, in your opinion, of those 120, they've been there in excess of 30 days?
Yes.
In excess of 60 days?
They were actually abandoned vehicles.
And in excess of 60 days?
Partially disassembled, maybe jacked up with no wheels on them, but they were abandoned. I didn't go and check and see if they were registered
Right.
or anything like that, but they were abandoned vehicles.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly?
Darius, you've been around a while. What would you recommend? What would you suggest?
Like I say, I don't know the answer, but, it's just hard. You're gonna make a lot of people upset and make a lot of enemies. Even if you come and got mine, my whole family is gonna be upset and angry at you for mistreating me, you know.
That's why I said earlier, I think this really goes to the heart of a much bigger issue than, 3 pages of a process. I think it's really are we as a community really ready to step into holding people accountable for whatever the codes are? Are we ready to inform our community? What is the vision? Why are we stepping into this? Okay, it's not really, in my opinion, about going through every code. It's about a much bigger subject. Are we really ready to clean up this town and move in a new direction? It is gonna be very unpopular. A lot of people are gonna be really upset with the mayor. But the way I see it, this council sets the policy. The mayor's job is to carry out whatever the policies are that this council sets. It's not the mayor's, in my opinion, when he sends out a letter to a property owner, says, you have so many days, or you can come in for a hearing or whatever. They really don't need to be pointing the finger at the mayor. It's this council that sets these rules. And are we ready? Are we ready for the backlash that, a large group of the citizens of this town are not gonna like?
Yeah, but that's-
This is a big issue.
Right, and that's why I go back to time and having a reasonable amount of time. And everybody's timeline is different, and I understand that, so that's why I keep going back to time.
Regardless of time, let's say it's 30 days, let's say it's 120 days,
Right.
180 days. All right, let's get the time right. Are
Right,
we ready to start upsetting people? Are we ready to start cleaning up this town? Really putting the teeth in it, really sending out the letters, really having the hearings, and, I think Darius is absolutely right. This is gonna, it's gonna upset a lot of people. I'm for it. I'm sorry, all of you've campaigned, you've heard it. People want this town to be cleaned up. But we
Wrong.
we'll get ready.
I'm
There's
sorry.
no doubt.
No, it's fine.
There's
Wrong.
no doubt the town will be cleaned up. I'm not against the fact. I'm against telling people what to do and how to do it without them coming in. How many people has come in and complained, Darius or Curtis, with abandoned vehicles or with property besides, I realize, Barbie, right, y'all are, you all complaining, and that's what y'all are looking at, okay? So don't think negative on that. But how many actually taxpayers, neighbors have come in and complained with these areas that we're talking about?
Well, there's been several, and it's not only the area that we're talking about, it's all over town. And
So you have had complaints?
Absolutely, and there's been folks that have, moved and said their property value has went down and because of abandoned vehicles or junk vehicles in their lot, and so, I mean, there's been several all
I have
over
several
town.
examples of, well, I'll share with
So-
people that complain to me.
Yes,
Mayor, to the point that you just made, and
Mr. Olson has been trying.
yeah, okay, hold on, Ray's got the floor, and then we'll go.
this whole issue is not as much,
Hey, they're gonna give you a chance here just a sec, don't leave.
I like it to be done right if you're gonna do it. Okay?
Just a minute, they're gonna.
I was next in line,
Yes,
sir,
you're right.
and I don't like someone taking my place.
Ray was at the podium. Mr.
No,
Ross.
yeah, but I was the next one, had my hand
I'd be
raised.
happy to step down if he wants to speak.
It's your turn.
No,
Hey, no.
Your turn. Your turn.
I'm happy to
Okay.
step down.
I'm not trying to be mean, but let's do it right. And, because my vote is just as much in this as anyone else. I'm
Sure.
a human being.
Pay taxes too.
That's right, I pay taxes. Nobody, that's another thing, nobody comes and pays my taxes. Nobody helped me pay my payments on my place. Why should it someone else tell me what to do on my place? I'm part of that kind of stuff. We never had that before. And I'm not trying to be mean to these folks, they may mean good by it, but I'm not interested in what they think. And I think a lot of other people you're gonna find out not interested in either. The only reason, there are gonna be some things happen in this town, and it don't need to be run by just a few. This means nothing more than any other person in this town. And that's what, but let me ask you, how far is this gonna go? How far are we gonna take this? We're gonna take the businesses that got rusty equipment sitting around their place, we're gonna make them clean their place up too? How far are we gonna take this? When you start, boat owners gonna have to quit, they're gonna start on boats next. We gotta think about this, just like Kelly said, we need to think about where we're at before we go and make decisions just because somebody brings a piece of paper to us. And I'm part of this city, I have been for almost 30 years. Some of these people have not been part of this city at all, for very long. Seems like they're the ones making the most noise. I enjoyed being here. That's the reason I moved here, because it was not regulated to death. And that's why I like it.
Yeah. So what's your opinion of the ordinance, Ray?
I don't like this ordinance. I don't think that it's anybody's business come and tell me, if I had some vehicles that I'm working on a little at a time, maybe I'm gonna restore them, maybe I have to restore them. But they've got other things, other irons in the fire too. Well, this tells me that unless I could be in trouble, because I don't have time to get them all restored right then. And it's my property, as long as I try to keep it neat. I don't like somebody coming and telling me what to do on my property. Cause it's gonna go on farther, this ain't gonna stop, you go to Florida, places, a lot of people moving out there because of the very same thing. And they're coming here, and some of them are trying to do the same things here that they did, that they were doing down at these other places. And we don't need that.
Mr. Olson, may I ask you a question? I'm not sure where you live in town, but specific to the abandoned vehicle policy that's before us tonight, would that have an impact on you personally?
It would have an impact on me a little. My son has a place, and he doesn't have time to get those vehicles for the way he wants them. And they were his brothers that passed away last year.
Is this, they're on your property?
We both own it together.
Okay.
It was my son that passed away's property, and it came to us.
Mhm.
And there's gonna be, we've done a lot of work there of doing things, and eventually we, hopefully put up a fence, privacy fence. But you can't do that in 72 hours.
Mhm.
You can't do some of these things that God, and unless you got a lot of money. And,
So so you're saying you do have abandoned vehicles on your property now? Is that what did you?
I've got 2 or 3 that need to be sold,
Okay.
or fixed up.
Okay.
They're not really abandoned vehicles, they're your family treasures.
They are. They were my son that passed away last year, and we, my other son, he's not letting loose of them real easy. And there's other people in the same predicament.
Yeah, so, and I hear you loud and clear, Mr. Austin. What is the answer for the neighborhoods that do want cleanup? What is, I'd love to hear your opinion.
Well,
Because there are some that are on the opposite side of where you are. And I think you heard me say about timing, I agree 72 hours may not be enough, I agree with that. But what is the answer for those folks and those residents that would like to see
If
enforcement?
they have something in their neighborhood, they need to go people need to sit down and talk sometimes. And then if they don't listen, if they can't work out something, there's a big thing here that people don't want to sit down and talk to one another, they just want to tell each other what to do. And it's not right. Because let's go even bigger. This country, we don't like the other countries telling us how to operate our country, do we? You wouldn't want Cookville to come down here and tell you how to operate your city. Well, that's my little town. Or that's my little place that I have dominion over. And I don't like somebody coming and just coming in and saying, hey, I want you to do this way or this way. And where's it gonna stop? Once it starts, where's it gonna stop? I have nobody come to me personally and said a thing to me. I may not like a lot of things that people that are sitting right in this room that they have at their homes. It's not my home. I don't worry about that. Too much, I tell you, sometimes we need to get busy doing something rather than going around busybodying. And if we wouldn't do that, we wouldn't be so concerned about everything. Maybe we need to, go and help people.
Sure. Does anybody got any questions for Mr. Austin?
Well, I'd like to talk in just general. I understand Mr. Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Austin.
Thanks, sir. I understand his situation. I understand a lot of people's situation. I've driven all over this town. There's some pretty bad situations in town. We're not living in 1999 anymore. We have no codes for you to even send a letter to make a conversation with the complaining people like that. So these situations right here, they've been there forever. Well, not the one. The one is my great aunt Mary Jane Stevens' place that burnt down. Now it's just full of cars, and the people around that are pissed off. Their property values is going down daily. They can't sell their property and move because nobody will buy it because of this garbage right here. In the city has ordinance, the county has some ordinance. Most counties in the state of Tennessee, in the county section, you can do whatever. If you wanna do whatever, you do it. In the city, it's different. All cities in the state of Tennessee have ordinances to keep things like this from hurting somebody else's property beside of them, and this right here is garbage. And there's garbage, there's more than, there's 3 examples, you've got 120 right here that you talked about. And we're not living in 1999 anymore, and you know, you can get mad, you probably already are. I appreciate you, I respect you, but we're not living in 1999 anymore, and if we want to progress and move forward in this city, we've got to start something and move forward. We can't stay in 1999 anymore. It's never coming back. If we want new businesses to come in, see a clean city, see a city that's progressive, we've got to move that way. Sitting here doing nothing, you always get what you always got.
That's right.
Mayor, one last word from the committee. This is in fact all about property rights, no question. We in Oakland County and Livingston hold those dearly. But the issue isn't about the property that the abandoned vehicles own, it's the negative effect that it causes to the neighbor on each side and the devaluation. You think about trying to sell a house at a reasonable price next door to a residential lot that has 15 abandoned vehicles on it. It's just not gonna happen. You're never gonna get your full value. It is about property rights. It's about the rights of the folks who are trying to do the right thing and keep their communities and their properties looking good and can't do that because of these violations.
Well, that's right too, but let me tell you another thing too, if a motel or someone come in, somewhere's here in town, and there was businesses that had rusty equipment, rusty vehicles, that's the same scenario as a city street that's got these cars, correct? It's rusted and it looks bad on the property.
That's not what we're
That's-
addressing.
That's not addressed in this ordinance at all.
But it's,
Mr. Humphries?
It will be another code.
Briefly, folks, Alderman Coleman, I agree with you completely. I think the Alderman, the Board of Aldermen has a responsibility to bring us up to code with the new Tennessee Code Annotated, I think is the term. 19 years, it's time for you guys to take action. If you vote to not do anything, that's your understanding, but you need to kind of get us up to date with the rest of us. Also, I think this was a requested draft. I don't think we're trying to push anything down anyone's throat. Quite honestly, a year ago, we thought it was something needed. You guys need to take a look at it. You decided not to, that's fine. If you decide not to now, you're in a position of authority. But you need a little push to actually make something happen. Cell phones make everybody smart. I knew this quote was from somebody, Will Rogers, is, you can't legislate common sense. You guys have leniency to how you're going to implement this. You can put 72 hours down, you can put 24 hours down. Somebody called the mayor and said, hey, I haven't got a motor for that car, I really want to set it up for my daughter 2 years from now. It's a perfect understanding. You know, that's not the cars we're looking at with trees growing through them. It's all a matter of implementation and how City Hall, I'll use that term, how City Hall implements it. Just a thought for you.
Thank you, Judge. Council, do you have anything else? Does anyone want to speak on this? Anyone else?
Help me understand how the next, what do you think the next property code that you propose us looking at would be? What would it be? And would it be possible perhaps maybe to get us a copy prior to the meeting so we at least have time to read it so we can come prepared to ask questions?
Kelly, some of that is my fault because we went back and forth with John Meadows and.
Yeah, some of it's my fault.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why you're just not getting it, so.
Okay. Well, what do you see the next one?
I think from the committee's perspective, that we can speak for the committee, but we're sort of waiting to see what y'all do tonight as to whether we move forward with another one or even not.
Well, I'm curious, I mean, what other options or proposals does the council have that, to address abandoned vehicles? Anybody here have any other ideas or suggestions? Ronnie, how would you like to see it addressed?
Listen to taxpayers and I listen to the voters. And I don't like to tell people what to do with their property. And that's exactly what we're doing here. I realize codes have to be passed, and I realize we're living in 2018. Mr. Speck's done address that, and I realize this committee spent time working this up, and John prepared it, and it looks good. But sometimes you have to use common sense.
By doing what?
When you look at issues.
Well,
So what we
how
do is-
specifically then would you utilize common sense to address an abandoned
If
vehicle?
somebody comes in and complains about the property or vehicles, to City Hall, files a complaint, Darius goes out and looks, I believe Greg's sitting there, he goes out, you've got the authority as police chief right now to address whatever codes that we've got up on file, right?
Right now,
We don't have.
Not this, but I'm talking.
No, let's stick to I asked the question about, are there any other ideas about abandoned vehicles? How do you use common sense to address an abandoned vehicle issue? Without a code. The way I understand it, our current code has no teeth at all. So how do you suggest we do that? I'm open. I mean, we are a body. If you don't like what's on the table, come up with your own ideas and present them.
Like in Randall's
You know,
situation.
if we're just gonna sit here and say we don't like something,
Like in Randall's
that's so
situation.
counterproductive.
In Randall's situation, when somebody files a complaint on him, he's gonna come before Kelly Williams and she's got the ultimate.
Yeah,
Because, he can say, we're still working on this and that can be dismissed, and we'll give you more time.
that's exactly right.
Perfect. I like
That's where the
that.
common sense.
But
That's
this
right.
right here, this is not Randall Elsip's situation. We need to do something like that.
Darius, how many times have you been out by the mayor to address people with vehicles? Roughly how many trips you say you, mayor sent you in the past 6 months?
In the past 6 months,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times in the past 6 months, but usually it's the same one.
If somebody in the neighborhood has got enough problem with their neighbor with vehicles, I mean, I've got vehicles, I'm in the business. But if somebody's got enough problem with vehicles in the neighborhood, why don't they come themselves and address the board and say, hey, this is aggravating time out of me. You fellas need to do something, instead of sending a committee around through here and pointing people out. Now, I'm gonna tell you, when you get on people and tell them what they do with their own stuff, you're gonna get in trouble.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just make one point? I did do exactly like you said. I registered complaints about abandoned vehicles, and I was told that Darius went and talked to a couple of people about abandoned vehicles. Nothing was done, because they chose to do nothing. There's nothing that Darius or the mayor could do when they said, I don't want to do anything.
What can we do in this situation now if they refuse to do anything?
If it's on private property, David, we can't hardly do anything without that property owner's consent. We just can't hardly do anything. On public property, we do have a code that they can be removed. And impounded or whatever. But when it comes to private property, you need the homeowner's consent.
Yeah. And David, that's kind of where we at, and we have really tried. We have tried really, really hard. Darius could tell you, the ladies here at the office can tell you, where we've sent out some nice letters asking them, I think John maybe have even sent out some as well. And sometimes you get a response, but a high percentage of the time you don't get any.
I did have a complaint on Randall's son. I'm sure sorry about your son. Before he did pass away. And, I even sent him a letter, you know. And of course, then he suddenly passed away, died. But, since that time, I think Randall, along with some other family members, they have moved, several of the vehicles over there. But I never did go back and respond because of the situation.
Right.
Well, with you driving around pointing out 120 property owners yourself,
Yes.
okay, you ain't had a lot of property owners contacting City Hall if you just
No.
went 2 or 3 times.
No. Like I say, David, and you realize this and you know, but usually it's the same location, maybe by 2 or 3 different property owners that's near that person. It's the same ones over and over. Let me ask you this, I don't know, if you are going to adopt a property maintenance code, I don't know how much we can exempt out of that code and just leave the automobile thing in it. I think we may be extending our bounds. John might could help me with this, but thinking that if we adopt the property maintenance code, that we're only going to deal with the vehicles. Now, there are some exemptions that we can make, but if you adopt the international property maintenance code, there's going to be some other.
I don't think that's what we're considering.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, sir.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. Go for it. Yes, I'm sorry.
Amen.
We're here to solve problems, you know, and, do some of y'all not think we have an issue or a problem here?
You've got a problem. And I'm gonna start right now to correct it.
Well, I mean, at least you,
It's not a-
Well, so this work session is about to come to a close, folks, and so, this will, if the city council would like, it can be added to the agenda, during the additions. So that's for this year's bill, sorry about that. So, okay, if there's nothing else, we'll stand adjourned, for this work session and, take 5 minutes and, we'll come back.